So tip number 1, empower employees with tools for digital first culture. Now, this might seem like a simple thing, but it's not just technology. You can't just apply technology to people. It's building a culture that is digital first. It's making sure that the expectation of digital first is within that culture and making the tools available to be able to cultivate that culture. The second tip is provide tools that empower them to be paperless and work smarter. Paper tends to be the bottleneck in a lot of different processes because in order to maybe work with someone remotely, you either have to use maybe like FedEx or UPS to send that over, or the post. You need to maybe scan that you need to send that to them, which over email, that takes time. There's also a lot of fidelity that's lost in paper because when you bring it back into digital, you have to use things like optical character recognition, and depending on the quality of the scan, it's not always a great transition. So as much as you can, try to encourage people to use digital first technologies. So tip number 3. Security is everybody's responsibility, but let's also give employees the tools to be responsible. And, this has multiple facets to it. There's the devices that people are using to log in to do their work. It's where those documents are being stored, whether that's something on their desktop computer or something on a remote drive, or on like Microsoft SharePoint or Google Docs. Making sure that you provide the tools so people can securely store those documents in there is extremely important. But the other thing is what about those documents and making sure that no one's changing those documents or there isn't any fraud? Contrary to popular belief, PDFs are not read-only. You can actually edit a PDF in tools like Adobe Acrobat, where you can go in, and if we had like these hours here, we could easily go in and change this value to, instead of 6,000 hours, 10,000 hours. And that could run into a whole issue of compliance. And especially if we assume that the PDF is not editable, then how would we know there? Well, we're already on the right step talking over video on Zoom today. Other tools like Microsoft Teams is a great tool. I know many people use Slack and so forth. But a couple of things that I've also found is that more and more people are also working inside these tools to collaborate. And these platforms are also finding ways to have apps that you can work inside of these, and not just like screen sharing. But the other thing is that especially with documents, I know a lot of times people are sending emails back and forth to each other in order for them to review. And I also still have people that print them out, red line them with a pen, scan them back in, drives me up the wall. But one of the things that you can do is, because when you're in a digital place, you can collaborate remotely in real time on your documents. Tip number 5, expect tools that are accommodating for everyone in the digital world. Now, when I say everyone, I mean everybody. Everybody from people with disabilities, like visual disabilities. I mean everyone. And one of the challenges that we've heard from people is, particularly because we're not just in a paper world today. Now we have, and we're not just in a computer world today either. We have computers, we have mobile devices, we have tablets, we have paper. All of these are different formats. And with phones being more popular, one of the challenges that I've really seen is that when you have something that looks like a piece of paper, you have to pinch and zoom to try to read that content. That becomes much more difficult. So we've been working with a number of different experts to make that much easier from a day-to-day working with PDFs, but also as it relates to things like e-learning. And it's a tool and it's freely available with an Acrobat Reader on your phone. It's called Liquid Mode. And what it does is this, say, resume on this phone is somewhat difficult to read because you have to pinch and zoom to try to read that document. But what it can do instead is it analyzes the document and it will reflow your PDF into something that you can easily view right on your device. It understands the structure of the PDF, so you can do things like navigate, and it'll know all the different headers and so forth. But it can also give you your own reading settings. And this is really important because some people need text to be really big. Some people need to separate the spacing, but you can create your own preference of a reading order so that you have much less fatigue going through and reading any of your documents on a mobile device. So the other thing in tip number 6 is bring the tools to where people work every day. I don't want to have 15 different applications or 15 different tabs. I want to work with my digital documents where I'm working. And this has been something that at Adobe, we've been really focusing on that philosophy. For example, inside of Microsoft Teams, we've made it available so that directly inside of there, you can share a PDF with somebody that you maybe have stored in SharePoint here. And without having to leave the conversation, you can open that up and you can collaborate and add, comment, and review on that in real time with everybody else in that conversation. And this brings us to that area of document automation. Now, a lot of people are getting into things like robotic process automation or RPA. And there's also business process automation. And being able to use those types of tools to be able to automate some of those common tasks. So you're not having to have an application open on your computer and you're clicking those buttons all day. What if we can have the computers do that automatically for us or based on triggers of what we do within our applications? And one of the ways that we've been working on this with Microsoft is integrating into what's called Microsoft Power Automate, which is their low-code workflow automation tool in Microsoft 365. So any of your PDF and e-signature tasks, you can put in line with the rest of this workflow. And what this workflow is describing is basically when I drop a file into SharePoint, we want it to convert a PDF into a Word document and then send an email notification to somebody. A couple of easy steps, and we might do that over and over and over again. But this could help do this automatically. And the important thing is I'm not using a developer in order to do that. I am just configuring that in there. And this whole area of low code opens up a whole bunch of possibilities for you to automate a lot of tasks within how you work every day, so that people can spend less time on the busy work and more on the work that requires time and thought, and to take some of that busy work and let some of the flows do that instead. In an ideal scenario, we would love to take the paper and the work out of paperwork. And unfortunately, a lot of times we pass a lot of that to our clients or our customers. And that means that whether it's someone downloads a PDF on the website, and then they have to print to fill it out, sign it, scan it, send it back in, or send it in the post. Or it might be that you have something that someone's required to come in to an office in order to complete. There's better ways that you can easily and without doing a huge amount of effort, integrate this online onto your websites so that people can have electronic processes, but also you're not having to say rekey information and so forth.